Hey guys, today we're going to go over how to solve linear equations when they have fractions in them. So the three problems that I have for you guys today is this one where we have a fractional denominator with a 4 and a 3. I have this guy where we have some stuff in parentheses and we have a fractional coefficient as well as this 1/3 hanging out over here. And what do we do with that? And then the last one we'll go over is like, okay, well what if we have this kind of giant fraction on the left, giant fraction on the right? How do we deal with that? And luckily, we can kind of deal with everything the same way, which is really nice. So what we're going to do is we are going to do this the easy way. There's just going to be one thing we're going to do, and we're going to do it every single time. So no need to remember different stuff. And what it is we are going to go through and we are going to clear the denominators. So first thing we have to look at, big highlighter. So what are our denominators here? Well, in this case we have a denominator of a 3 and a 4. So if I were to combine these guys, right, because anytime we add fractions we need a common denominator, so if I were to combine these guys we would need to think of what our common denominator would be, or our LCM. Okay, so what is, oops, sorry, way too big. So what is our common denominator for if I have a 4 and a 3? Well, if we think of the LCM, the multiples of 4 go 4, 8, 12, and the multiples of 3 go 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, hey, if our common denominator here was 12, we could add these fractions together. So that's the number that we're looking for. So step 1, figure out what your common denominator is. And then step 2, take that common denominator and multiply it by everything in your equation as long as it's not in the parentheses. So that guy's going to get a 12, and this guy's going to get a 12 also. So again, step 1, look at your denominators. Step 2, figure out what your common denominator would be, or at least common multiple out of all the denominators that are in your equation. Multiply that common denominator by every single thing in your equation. And now this is why. So 12. This is a big 12. You can think of all these 12s as big 12s over 1. 12 divided by 4, these guys are going to knock each other out, and that's going to go to a 3. 12 divided by 3, those guys get to knock each other out, and that's going to go to a 4. And then 3 times 12, there's no fraction over here. Right side, 3 times 12, this just becomes 36. Our left side, hey, we knocked out our fraction entirely there, so we just have 3 times x. Same thing over here, we knocked out our fraction entirely, so now we just have 4 times 2x. So now this is going to be an 8x. Now look, no more fractions. Okay, so this is exactly what we want. Now all we have to do is combine like terms. And divide by 11 to get the x by itself. Hey, we got an ugly fraction as an answer, but you know what? Who cares? There we go. X is going to be equal to 36 over 11. So again, look at all your denominators, find the common denominator, multiply everything in your equation by that common denominator, and then your fractions go away and your problem gets so much simpler. Alright, so let's try that again. Let's trash that, go to the next one. Alright, so now what if you have fractions and you have parentheses in there? So now how do we deal with that? Same process. So let's figure out what our denominators are. Let's see, we want really big. So where are our denominators? Okay, there's one there, and there's one there. Alright, so we need to figure out what our common denominator would be now with a 2 and a 3. Some of you guys are probably already ahead of me and know what it is. Okay, so what's the common denominator? It's common denominator, sorry about that. Common denominator now with a 2 and a 3. Oh, hey, 2 and 3, multiples of 2, 2, 4, 6. Multiples of 3, 3, 6. Common multiple here is going to be the 6. Alright, so figured out what our common denominator is. Now, that's going to multiply by everything that is not in parentheses. And I'll say that again. Everything that is not in parentheses. And make sure you hit the other side of that equal sign too. If it's in parentheses, always think of parentheses as just like these guys are kind of protecting that term, okay? So if it's in parentheses, it's kind of protected. You can't multiply anything in there. You've got to deal with the outside guy first. All right, let's clear our denominator. 6 divided by 2, that gives us a 3. 6 divided by 3 gives us a 2. Now let's clean things up. 3 times 1, we cleared our fraction, is going to give us a 3. The stuff inside the parentheses just comes right down. Remember, this is like a little protected area. 2 times 1 is 2, and plus sign in the middle. Because we cleared our denominators, no more fractions. And now 2 times 6 gives us the 12. Alright, now we can just go through distribute and solve, and we got rid of all the terrible fraction stuff. So 3 times 2x, this will give us a 6x. 3 times positive 5, this will give us a positive 15. Add our 2 equals 12. Alright, let's combine some like terms. So we got 6x, 15 plus 2 is 17, equals 12. Okay, now let's minus 17 from both sides. We'll get 6x equals 12 minus 17 is negative 5. Last step, let's get rid of that. 6. Alright, x is equal to that again. Negative 5, 6. It's a fraction, but who cares? Fractions are numbers too. If you get a fractional answer, it's fine. Fractions are numbers. It'll be okay. Everything's fine. So, restating, figure out all your denominators, find the common denominator of all your denominators, take that number, multiply it by everything as long as it's not in parentheses, and then that'll clear out your fractions because everything will divide evenly. That was the point of finding this common denominator. So, okay, what number can I use that would multiply all these fractions? They will divide evenly. And the common denominator LCM is exactly that number. That's why we're trying to find it. So we're trying to make our lives as easy as possible. Cleared out our fractions. Hey, that is way nicer and easier to solve. All right, let's see one more example. So now what if I just have fraction equal fraction? What do? Well, we can do it exactly the same way that we've been doing it. So step 1, look at the denominator. Here's my denominators here. My denominators are a 5 and a 10. So just go smaller and a different color. So common denominator, 4, 5, and 10. What is it? Okay, well, multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20. Multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, 40. Notice both these lists have a 10, so common denominator here is going to be a 10. Whenever you have two denominators and one actually divides the other, take the bigger one. So 10. Alright, multiply both of these guys by 10. And I know some other people will say, well, just it's one proportion equals one proportion, just do cross multiplication. That's also fine. But if you want to just remember one thing that's going to work for everything, it's clearing the denominators, finding the common denominator and multiplying that through everything as long as it's not in parentheses. Alright, here we go. 10 divided by 5. Hey, that's going to divide evenly to a 2. Hey, 10 divided by 10, that just cancels out completely. Alright, now what do we got? Our right side, blown out, we just have a b. Left side, alright, distribute. 2 times b is 2b. Always remember to distribute. And 2 times positive 3 is going to give us a plus 6. Alright, let's move all of our b's over to one side. I'm just going to subtract them from here. Again, you can kind of do this now. Choose your own adventure. Alright, so we get 6 equals b minus 2b will give us negative b, and that's a b, and that's a 6. I know they look so similar. Now, if negative b equals positive 6, and I don't want negative b, I want positive b. So I don't want negative b, I want positive b, which means I want the opposite sign here. So if I take the opposite sign, then I have to take the opposite sign here. So if negative b equals 6, then positive b is going to equal negative 6. So anytime you're in this situation, you have negative variable equals whatever number. You flip the sign on the variable, just flip the sign on the constant or the number, and you'll end up with your answer. So, recapping again, anytime you are solving equations with fractions, gather up all the denominators of your fractions in your equations, as long as they're outside of parentheses. Figure out what their common denominator would be, and then multiply that number by every single piece of your equation as long as it is not in parentheses. Remember, parentheses are kind of like their own, hey, this is protected in here. Once you do that, divide out. Things will divide evenly because we picked our number this way. And then, hey, all of our fractions go away and we just get to kind of solve nice and easy, which is great. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Let's go all the way back out. And if you guys want any more videos, just subscribe to my channel and you'll see everything hopefully the quick and easy way. Thanks, guys.